I'm here in Medjugorje. I'm in Hotel Grace and I'm with, what's your name?
Gary O'Neill.
Where are you from?
I'm from Belfast, Ireland.
And I heard your story, man. That's one of a kind, you know? You want to start with, you said with the childhood, starting?
I had a rough childhood, Tom. I, as far back as I can remember, from 2 years of age, maybe, I can remember bad things. My parents, my mum was abused by nuns when she was in a nun's home. She got put into a nun's home, and she was abused badly. And that nun's home got exposed for what they've done. Thank God. My dad was in the war, and he suffers from PTSD. So the two of them never got help for that.
Let me ask, that's the war, the Irish?
The Irish
Catholic against Protestants?
the Irish versus the British Army.
Yeah.
The two of them never got help for that. So their answer to that was alcohol. And I witnessed. I was so scared to go downstairs every morning before school, because all I could remember is the fights at night times and the screams and the oh, it was terrible. And I was just a wee child, and I tried to just block it out, you know. And it was so hard. And when I was in the morning times, when I was really frightened to go down those stairs to see what I was going to see, because I knew what I was going to see. And almost every single morning, black eyes, scratches on their two faces, hair pulled out, busted lips, and I was so scared. I never opened my mouth. I just tried to put my head down, and I didn't want them to see me looking at their wounds that they did on each other. And I had to go through that. I had to go through that for all through my childhood. I seen a lot of things that no child should ever see, witness, or experience.
Yeah.
I seen a lot of violence. I knew about the war. All I knew was about the war. That's all. I grew up knowing the war. That was all I
Experience.
that was all I experienced. And then at 15 years of age, I was a boxer. I went to boxing at 7, and that was my way of coping, to get my anger out.
The pressure you feel.
Yeah, I was getting my anger out in the boxing. And I continued on boxing, and I became a very good boxer. And I'm in love with boxing. At 15 years of age, I joined the Republican movement. It's all I ever knew. I thought it was good and right to do anything to get the British out of my country. My dad found out that I was in it a little later down the line, and he was in jail, and he used to be in jail. He went through the war himself at the bad time, the real bad time, and he was so angry, he pulled me out of it. And when he pulled me out of it, I sort of rebelled against that, because I wanted to be a soldier, to fight for my country, and he pulled me out of it, and I rebelled against that, and so I started to drink heavily. I started to drink heavily and steal cars. I was stealing cars really out of rebellion and nothing else. I was just rebelling against my dad taking me out. But I know now that he was just caring for me. I became that much of a drunk 24/7 because I was always in fear. I was always in fear because the IRA ended up, because of what I was doing, they ended up wanting to shoot me. So they came to my house. They came to my house at 17. They came to my house at 17. Yes, it was 17. I was 17 years of age. And they took me out of the house. They didn't have balaclavas on in the house, but when I looked outside the alleyway, they were taking me out the back way, and they said to my mother, my dad wasn't there, they said to my mother, it's okay, we're just going to talk to him. But I knew what was going to happen. They took me out of the back doorway, and then I seen the men with the balaclavas on waiting on me. They got me into a car, and they took me down. They took me down to a back square, just 2-minute drive from my own house. And as soon as the car pulled up, I tried to open the doors to run, but they had the tail locks on. I couldn't escape, and they were men. I was just a boy. There was 1, 2, 3. There was 5 of them in the car. There were 5 of us in the car, including me. And as soon as they opened the door, I seen about 7 men with balaclavas come out of an alleyway, and they had black bags in their hands, and I just said, please don't do this to me, please, I will stop, please don't hurt me, please. And they just trailed me along. Now I was strong because I'm a boxer. I was very strong, so it took at least 7 of them, 6 to 7 of them to hold me down. I was fighting off that. I was trying to struggle off the ground, but I couldn't. Tom, they had their legs on my legs, my arms. I couldn't move. So I just says, right, okay, you okay, guy? You're in for it here. Close your eyes. I thought they had guns in the bags, but they didn't. What they had was metal bars in an L shape, and I was actually more fearful of that than a gun. And they put the black bags inside my mouth, and then they told me to bite down on the black bags, and then they started to beat me with the metal bars down the way. They knew what way to break my bones, and they broke all my bones, and I was just it was painful. The first 2 blows was painful. After that, I didn't feel no pain. There was so much fear and adrenaline in me. I didn't feel no pain, and they kept hitting me until they knew I could hear my bones break. And one at the very end of it, it felt like hours, but it lasted for about maybe 5 to 10 minutes. But it felt like hours. And the last guy who was going to hit me, he went like that to hit me on the head, and then one of the guys pulled him off and says he's had enough. So they left, and then as soon as they left, all the neighbours come out with blankets and pillows. God love them. And I remember telling them, please take me away from here, because they're going to come back, please. And all the neighbours says, don't worry, son, they're not going to come back. And the neighbours would keep me warm. There must have been 30 people around me at that stage. And once I heard the ambulance coming, then I knew that I was a bit safe. Yeah. I went to the hospital and they put the plaster parses where all my broken bones were. They gave me crutches. The crutches couldn't really do nothing because I couldn't use them. After that, I got more angry. With them. It didn't stop me. I turned to drink more. I was drinking in the mornings, right through, and drink made me fearless. Because I knew they were going to come to shoot me again. I knew they were going to come.
If I may ask, IRA, that was IRA.
IRA.
That means Irish Republican Army. No? That is for the British or?
That's for the Irish.
For the Irish.
That's over now. That war's over.
Yeah, that's over now. That's story. Yeah.
I knew, because it says to me, we're going to shoot you next time. So what I done was, with all the broken bones, I went out to steal more cars. And I was still managed to drive these stolen cars, really drunk. I could have killed anybody on those cars, and thank God I didn't hurt nobody in that sense. But I started to handbrake my stolen cars outside their houses because I knew who did it. I knew exactly who did it to me. Even though I had balaclavas on, I knew who did it to me. So I started to handbrake outside their houses at night times to annoy them. I was so angry, and I was drunk. I was a mess. My childhood had a major effect on my behaviour growing up. So they came for me then again. My sister was raped about a week before they came a second time. My sister was gang raped, and it broke me. You know, I didn't know what to do to help her. I couldn't. I was a mess myself. So every time I see my sister jump, every time the door knocked, my sister was, she was so scared, and I couldn't stand that. And all was in my head was kill those people who did that to her. That's so bad saying that, but that's
human reaction.
That was my thoughts back then. The police never caught those people. The IRA came a week after that. Yes, a week after that. Maybe 2 weeks, I'm not too sure. They came to shoot me. I came in after stealing a car and handbraking outside them at night. I came in at 7 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, around 6, 7. And I heard the door banging, but I was in a drunken sleep, so I didn't really realise what it was. And then my sister, who was raped, was shaking me. Get up, the IRA's at the door, get up now, guy. And then I got up. She hid me in the boiler and put a sleeping bag over me, thank God. And I just went, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. And I kept repeating the Hail Mary prayer. And I heard them. There was loads of them in the house. I heard them running up down the stairs. Where is he? We seen him come in. Where is he? And they called my mummy. They called my mummy a bitch. A witch or a bitch. On that morning, again, my dad went. My dad was working. He wasn't there. They searched the whole house, and I could hear them, and I was so fearful. 2 feet away, I was in the boiler, and they were all talking in the kitchen. Where could he go? What could he have went to? Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. Guy. In himself, it was going, Guy, pray quiet. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. And I could hear them getting angry because
they
they couldn't get me.
Yeah.
And then they left the house. So I had to leave the country. I had to leave the country at a very young age. And I was all alone. I had to move to Manchester because I was going to get shot. And I was in Manchester, and I was drinking. I was just drinking a lot, and then I started to experiment with drugs over there. It was the first time I seen prostitutes in my life. It was the first time I seen things like crack cocaine and all that stuff. I'd never seen that before. And I actually tried that, and thank God, by the grace of God, I didn't get addicted to that stuff. I went out with a girl there in England, and it so happened that she had a gangster boyfriend I didn't know about, and he wanted to stab me because he was in a group of like a gang, and all them was wanted to stab me. So the man who was letting me live with him over there says to me, Guy, you need to get out of here now. And I'm gonna go. I also have to get out of here because they are threatening me now too, because I'm letting you stay in my place. So he came back. We got a boat back in the middle of the night to Belfast, and I knew the IRA was waiting on me to shoot me. My dad, God love him, he picked me up from the ferry, from the ferry place. And I went home, and I couldn't walk anywhere. I had to run everywhere with my hood up. I couldn't walk anywhere. I had to not to be seen. And I says to myself, Guy, don't be stealing no more cars. Just stop it. I stole a car, and thank God I got caught. Thank God I got caught. And then I stole another car, and I got caught again by the police. Thank God. And I stole another one, and I just happened to caught again. But I'm grateful for that, because when I get charged and got deal time, I got deal time. That gave me time to think, and I wrote, and I had hatred in my heart back then. I had so much hate in me. Hate is a terrible thing to have. It would drag any person really as hate. Hate's terrible, but I had a lot of hate in my heart, and this one man who I will never mention names, but this one man who I was so abusive to, who was in the IRA, who I was handbraking outside his house. He was one of the ones involved with my beating. So I kept giving him abuse. So in jail, I decided to write him a letter, and I was really sincere in that letter. He wanted to kill me. I was really sincere in that letter, because I knew once I got out of that jail, I was getting shot. I maybe shot dead. I'm not too sure, but people were telling me, Guy, you're going to get shot dead. I got out of jail. 7 months later, I think it was, yeah. And I brought the letter to his brother, and I says, I still have my hood up, but I run to his house and run straight back. I didn't even give it to his brother, so I posted it through the letterbox because I was fearful. And that letter, he really respected me. It was the decision that I made, writing that letter to him. He shook my hand. He met me, and he shook my hand, and he says to me, "I deeply respect you for owning up to all your wrongdoings and what you've done and everything else, and your letter seems really sincere from the heart." And I was crying a wee bit, and I said, "Thank God."
You apologized in the letter.
I said, "Thank God." I said, I will not do this again." And he shook my hand, and that was it. The relief of that there, of not being shot, and I could walk about the street then without my hood. I could,
Finally,
I'm
wow.
free. I'm free. There's no one going to shoot me. But I still had the drink problem. Because of my dad and mum, they had a terrible drink problem all through their lives. I think that run on to me, and I kept drinking. I was suicidal. I tried to. My first suicide attempt was straight after that. I cut my wrists. I think it was around 18. At the end of 18, I cut my wrists, and there was no one in the house. There was no one. My dad and mum were in the bar. I cut my wrists, and I just lay there, tried to bleed out, and the whole settee was covered with blood. It was just my mummy had to throw the settee out because there was too much blood on it. But thankfully, my brother came in just in time, and he ran over to the bar to get my mum and daddy. And then I can't really remember after that, but I was in hospital, and they stitched me back up again. I got out of there, and I continued on drinking. I was never really into drugs. Drugs scared me because I always took panic attacks. I was taking panic attacks from a 13-year-old child. That's when I started taking panic attacks. Children shouldn't have panic attacks, but that was I put that all down to what I've been through all my life, my childhood. So the drink kept the panic attacks away. But as soon as I stopped drinking, I was at worse because the panic attacks would come back 10 times worse. So as soon as I woke up in the morning, I needed a drink beside me, and then that would start, and then I would feel good again. So I would drink all day, Tom. I kept drinking like that, and every single time I was thinking of ways to kill myself. I didn't want to live. I hated myself. I didn't want to live at all. So I tried overdosing the second time. I did a lot of those. And every single time I did an overdose, I always had drink in me. And I took all these different tablets that I don't even know the names of, but I thought that these were going to kill me, but they didn't. Every single time I had an overdose, I woke up in hospital, and I was going, why am I still alive for? You know, I was angry that I was still alive. Thank God, he was protecting me. He had. I know now that he had plans for me, Tom. But I kept drinking. I kept drinking, and I kept trying to commit suicide. Over at least 100 times. Over 100 times. No less than 100 times I tried to kill myself. And that one time I was successful. I was hanging. I waited late one night so nobody would see me. And I went over to the football pitch, very drunk. I always drunk before I try to commit suicide to get a false sense of courage. And no, it was pitch black. So I never thought no one would see me. I was hanging, and I remember after, I'm not sure how many seconds or a minute, but I'm not sure what, I started to feel peace. A real peace come over me. But I know now that that wasn't peace, that was me going unconscious. And by the grace of God, there was two young people. God forgive me, because those two young people see me hanging, and I would have hurt them and see that. So they run to a neighbour's house, and two men come out, and they burst across the field, and they cut me down. They cut me down. That was one of the last times, and they didn't. I never knew who cut me down before. Never knew. And a couple of years, 1 or 2 years later, I seen them men, and they says to me, "Are you happy? Are you happy, Gary?" One was working on a car actually when he was saying it to me, and I says, "Yeah." I was really taken aback, because I was going, "Why is he asking me that for?" And then he told me, "It was me that cut you down, Gary. I'm a neighbour." And I says, "Oh, thank you so much. I'm so sorry that I put you through it." And see, when he seen the smile on my face, he was crying. He was crying because he saved my life. Thank God. But that didn't stop me drinking, Tom. I still carried on drinking. I came close to death so many times through the drinking. Put myself in really, really bad, dangerous situations with alcohol. I didn't care who I drank with. I was an alcoholic flats. I was robbing places for money just to buy alcohol. I was doing all that. And then my family wanted me to go to AA. And I went, "AA? I'm not an alcoholic, come on, I'm only young." And then, so I just did that to sort of shut them up, to keep them as happy. I didn't do it for myself, and that's why it never really worked. And then I'm been to rehab, because I got so bad I had to go to rehab, and I spent time in rehab, and I ended up in 2 different rehabs 7 times. I was in rehab 7 times for drink. And the last time I was in rehab was for smoking grass and taking cocodamol tablets because I got addicted to those. So I switched my addiction from alcohol to smoking grass. And I was off the drink for about 3 years then. There was a time the drink came back, and I just didn't want to live. I just didn't want to live that life. So again, I never went to mass. I never practiced my faith. I always believed in God, but I never practiced my faith. I was an altar boy when I was a child, and I remember when I was coming home one day from an altar service, I was saying to my daddy, "Daddy, I want to be a priest. I really want to be a priest." And my daddy says, "You're not going to be an effing priest." Oh. I remember this clearly, and I was only a child then. I can laugh about it now, so I can. But the drink still carried on, and then my girlfriend of my son, she took enough because I was also involved again with the war. It was so bad of me, and the cops raided the house, and once they did that, my girlfriend just went, "Gary, I'm sorry, you have to leave." And I was broken, Tom. I just says, right, this is it. I'm dying. I am dying today. I'm dying today. I'm dying today. I'm not going to take no more of this pain. I'm dying today. I'm not going to wait until the night. I'm not going to wait until later. I'm going to die now. But something made me run to the priest's house, which is just lucky. Lucky for me, it was just right across the street from my house. So it only took me 10 seconds to run across there at 9 o'clock in the morning. I was crying my eyes out. I was so broken. I was so broken, crying my eyes out. And that was when I was 30 years of age. I told the priest, I didn't go to confession that time. I told the priest my plans, and I sort of wanted them to talk me out of it. I sort of did. I must have done, because I just wanted to end the pain. And the priest talked to me for an hour, and he actually made himself late for 10 a.m. mass. But he, when he was talking to me, something changed in my mind. No, Guy, you can do this. You can do this. And then I says, Father, could you give me a confession? And he gave me a beautiful. I was on my knees, and it was I think I got this miracle because it was the first time ever in my life in confession that I was sincere, honest, and I was crying to Jesus. I was just going, God, please, I can't do this no more. You're going to have to help me. And after the confession, as soon as I opened up that door, and I remember I come over a really broken man, so broken, and as soon as I opened up his front door, because he always brought me into his house. My priest is very good with me. He always brought me into his house. But as soon as I opened up that front door, the priest run the mass, because I made him late, so he just run the mass. I smelled roses everywhere around me. There was no roses around me. I could smell this deep. It's hard to describe, but it was beautiful. It was a beautiful smell, and I knew there were roses. I could smell them all around me. Every single bird I heard singing, and I thought to myself, that is beautiful. I could hear them and singing to me, every single one singing to me individually. I've never had these senses before, Tom. I could smell the grass growing on all the fields all around me, and far away. I could smell the leaves on the trees. And it was just, I broke down crying again, but I wasn't broken no more. I was in so much joy. I was in so much joy. I ran to the house and I phoned the family. I phoned the family crying, but in joy. And I says to my family, please, there's something happened to me here. There's something happened. There's something happened. But my family just, Guy, calm down. No, please, there's something happening here. It's great. Jesus. That's all I could say. Jesus. And then it was Jesus. It was Jesus. But my family didn't have faith. So they just said, Guy, calm down. But for 3 days straight, I cried in joy, and I could for 24 hours. I cried 3 days in complete joy, and I just knew that my Lord saved me. That's when I started to practice my faith. That's when I started to practice my
You went to mass then and stuff like that?
going to mass, going to regular confession, adoration.
The whole thing. The priest introduced you to all that, or you knew it from the childhood?
I knew from the I knew from the childhood, but I did have a lot of priest support because I have a lot of friend priests. Because I always run to their houses. I used to run to their houses at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, drunk. Father, please, I want to die, all the time. So that's how I made these priests, and they're wonderful, wonderful, wonderful priests. And they're still my best friends now to this day. It wasn't just like, I was still battling. I had to fight. My sister who was raped, from the time she got raped, she got her faith by someone bringing her to a prayer meeting and then mass, and then she was talking about God all the time to me because she knew I was troubled, and I was going, Kelly, this is just too much. You're just doing it too much to me. Let me do it slowly. She wanted me to go to Mount Mallory with her and prayer meetings. Oh, I went to the prayer meetings. Now mass was okay. But I went to the prayer meetings and I seen them all holding hands, and I was like,
come on.
Ooh, what have I got myself in for? But I only did that. I only really did that for my sister. And then she invited me down to Mount Mallory, where Our Lady appeared to children in Ireland. And she says to me before we left, she called me Garso. She says, Garso. She always calls me that. She says, Garso, you're gonna be staying in a nice hotel, right? And I get down to Mount Mallory, a long drive, somewhere at the bottom of Ireland. I can't really remember where it is. I get off the bus, and I looked around me, and I went, Kelly, where's this hotel I'm staying in? And she was laughing at me. She says, Guy, I had to lie to you. And I went, what? You're going to leave me out in the cold all night? And then there was a wee hut, a tin hut, where they make tea. And then that's where you get the wee bit of heat. It was Good Friday. It was Good Friday. And I remember when everybody was up getting the tea, I says to myself, I'm going to go down to the grotto by myself, and I'm going to see, will Our Lady give me an experience? And I went down there and I sat alone and I just kept staring at her. I wasn't talking. I was just staring at her, hoping for some kind of sign. I didn't get that sign. And since it was Good Friday, people were carrying this big heavy cross. The cross was way looked bigger than me. It maybe been 7 foot. It was so heavy that it hurt me. People, my sister was on one side, and another man was on, a very, very, very holy man was on the other side of me on the seats. And the two of them at the same time are going, come on guy, you do it, carry out, you can do it son, you can do it. No, I'm too embarrassed to do that. No. And then I just said, right guy, okay, do this. And I picked up that cross. It hurt me. It hurt my shoulder. I remember it hurting me. But I remember feeling really good about that. For some reason, it felt really good. And I walked up. And I walked up the hill and down with it. And then I passed to somebody else after that. And that holy man next to me says to me, I didn't know to believe him or not. That holy man next to me says, son, I promise you this. Or I seen Our Lady helping you carry that cross. And I was just like, should I believe this or should I not? I didn't know, I didn't know. But it made me cry. It was so emotional. And that's when I said to myself, thank God I came down here. Thank God I came down here. I went home after that, and it was a beautiful experience. I get into a faith group. They're also in Spain and Ireland. They're spreading everywhere. You will see a lot of people in Medjugorje with Crusadio t-shirts.
What is the name of the group?
Crusadio.
Okay.
So it's us helping to bring people to God. But first I had to do a weekend. And so I was a candidate, and all the workers were ex-candidates, but they were now leaders. And my sister did that for me. My sister, who was raped, she was the one who told me about this. Thank God she did it for me. I seen those people, and they're all so nice to me. And I didn't deserve it. I was such a bad person in my life. I just didn't deserve it. And I woke up one morning and there was all these letters at my door. Written letters and all these holy cards, loads of them. And I says, so I opened them all. And one of them was from, he also worked there, he was a boxer like me. Eamon you call him, Eamon Macaulay. A great guy. He wrote a wee boxing. He drew two wee boxing men on the ladder, and he says, "We're brothers in arms."
Absolutely.
And they all wrote lovely letters, and my family wrote lovely letters, and it really broke me. Like as in, like people actually love me, because I never got a hug. I never got a hug when I was a child, ever. The only time my mother tried to hug me was when she was really, really drunk. My mother was sick, and I used to blame her for my life, for my ways, which was wrong. But once I got my faith, that all went away. That all went away. Where were we, Tom?
So you were saying you're getting all these letters, and this friend of you, the boxer,
Yeah.
brothers in arms.
The letters were. I was being told I was loved in every single letter. I wasn't really told I was loved when I was a child either, so I never really knew what that meant. But my daddy always took me on holidays every single year. I knew my daddy loved me. I knew he did. I just didn't hear it too much. He said it to me maybe the odd time. My mummy never said it. She was wounded by those, because she got abused by those nuns, and she never got help for it. I needed hugs. I needed to be told I was loved. I never thought I was loved. And it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking me, because I was such a bad person. I was such a bad person. Also, bad people inflicted serious damage to me, mentally and physically, through my life. Also, as a child, right up. But in Crusadio, that's when I did my weekend, beautiful weekend, and then I became a leader. So I worked on the weekend then. I worked on the weekends then, and it was I loved it. I love it. I love talking about God. I just love it. most people tell me to shut up and talk about God, but
No, it's beautiful. Man.
but back home today, that I talk about God a lot because what He's done for me. I got introduced to the walk to knock about 5 years ago, I think it was, and that was walking from Belfast to knock at the bottom of Ireland. So it took me 5 days, Tom. I thought, this is going to be no problem to me. I'm a boxer. Look at there's old men here. There's older women here. And they were overweight, and I was fit and strong. I said, if they can do it, this is going to be a walk in the park for me. See, on the second day, my ankle started to, because they broke my bones, so all my bones started to play up on me. I had serious pain, and the physio and the beautiful people at the casino, they kept giving me massages on my legs and rubbing my ankles with special kind of creams to try to ease that pain. I got those shin flints or something you call them. I don't know. It's something to do with your ankles, and they were painful. But I carried on. I says, I'm determined to do this. On the fourth day, and I was almost done. I only had one more day to do it after that. They says to me, Guy, we're going to have to pull you off this walk. You're too injured. And I says, what? Do you not dare put me off this walk? I am walking this walk for God. I'm walking this walk for God. I always believed in my head I was going to go to hell. Always. And I got these people to agree to let me continue with a crutch, and they wrapped me up good, and the physio was very good to me. He was very good with my ankle. They gave me a crutch, which I actually didn't use the crutch until the last 15 mile or so. But I had to use it all. I was in pain. And once I got the knock, I just busted down I busted down in tears. The tears were flowing. I felt Jesus. I felt Him. I felt His love for me. And as soon as I got into the church and knock, an arm came on my shoulder. I'll never forget this. And I didn't want to turn around. I didn't want to turn around because I don't know where that hand came from. It was a hand came on my shoulder and it stayed on my shoulder. And in my head, I was going, this is Jesus, this is Jesus, this is Jesus. So I started to cry, and that was the first time in my whole life when I was told, son, you're not going to hell. You're not going to hell. That was the first time in my life that something was telling me in my head, heaven, Guy, and I was going, me, heaven? How can I go to heaven when I did all those bad things? It was powerful. It was really powerful, Tom. Mm-hmm. That hand stayed on me. I still to this day. I never turned back to see how it was. And so I did the knock walk. But some lady came up to me and says to me, Guy, you're being called to Medjugorje. Mm-hmm. And I says to her, what's Medjugorje? I didn't even know what Medjugorje. I didn't even know if it was a place. Mm-hmm. And she came up and says to me, yes, you're going. And I had no money, Tom, at that time. Mm-hmm. I says, when's the trip? And she says 2 weeks. And I said to myself, how am I supposed to get that money up in 2 weeks? And then I says, okay, just stick my name down for it anyway. Don't worry, I'll I'll work this out somewhere. I get home from that walk after it took me 5 days to do the knock walk, and once I get home, there was people who I trained in boxing, and different people as well, different friends, coming to my door with envelopes, and I was going, why are you giving me this for? I opened up an envelope and I went, there was hundreds of pounds in each envelope. I had too much money. I didn't have a penny, and I just had too much money. It was just a pure miracle. I don't know how that happened. I can only thank Jesus for that. Jesus did that for me, and Our Lady, of course, wanted me here. So I did have too much money, so I used a lot of that money to help the poor people here, and I love doing that here, Tom. I love trying to help anybody. I still battle. I still have to fight through life. When I'm in adoration, in mass, or just walking or in the house, I would always say to Jesus, I know I have a heavy cross, and I'm so sorry when I complain about that. I accept my heavy cross, and thank you for giving me it. And I'm so thankful for all those times I did wrong. All those times I did wrong, and all those times that people did me wrong. I was so thankful of it. And all those suicide attempts, not one was successful. That's a miracle alone, Tom. I should not be alive. I should not be here. But I always say to Jesus, I am so thankful that you give me those I went through those hard times. Because see if I had them through those hard times, Tom, I would never turn to God, and that's a fair fact. That's a fact. And I've experienced different miracles. After that, which were powerful miracles. I actually had a priest here do an exorcism on my first
trip. Was it first trip?
My first trip here, an exorcism. Because I told him I messed about Luigi boards when I was a child, and he says, once he heard that, I seen his face. He says, whoa. So he did an exorcism on me for hours, and he says, how do you feel, guy? And I says, not too different, Father.
Honest?
I don't feel too different. Still feel the same. So he told me what to do. He gave me a list of 4 sheets. There was 4 sheets, yeah, of all sins, and I was going, what? That's a sin? That's a sin? I didn't know all these were sins. There were so many. So he says to me, go away to the mountain. Take your time, son. And I want you to write down on each one of these sins, the best you can remember. I want you to write down what you were doing. And I walked up the mountain. I come off the track so no one would see me, Tom. And there was a seat sitting there in the middle of. It was off the trail. It was off the trail, and it was just like a wee plastic seat sitting perfectly for me. And I sat down on it, and I said, thank you, Jesus, and thank you, Our Lady. I took my time. I was crying, writing it out. I started to remember things. I started to really remember things. So I took my time, as that priest says, because he really worried me. He worried me when he told me to go away, back onto the mountain, and go back, because I thought I had evil in me. I thought I was possessed. And so I was really worried. And I brought it back the next day. And I went to his confession, and I says, Father, there you go. So he says, right, let's go again, we're going to do an exorcism. And I went, whoa, no, not again. my goodness, not after the first time. Whatever happens to you, your sweat pumps out of you. I don't know how it happens. The sweat pumps out of you. I start to shake, especially on the second one. He had the bones of a saint in his cross, and he had it on my head. He kept it on my head, and he was talking in tongues the whole way through. And again, it lasted for hours. And I remember convulsing, sort of like, the sweat was beating out of me. And after 3 or 4 hours, he says he smiled at me. He also put Our Lady's statue. He gave me Our Lady's statue, and he says, "Hold Our Lady's statue tight to your chest, son," while he put the bones of the saint in my head. So I did do that. And he smiled. He must have knew. He smiled, and I smiled too. I felt new. I felt amazing, Tom. I felt just like something was in me, and it was gone. I felt amazing, and I had to tell him. He said, "How do you feel, son?" I says, "Father, I feel amazing." And he was very impressed at me taking my time, writing all that stuff, all my sins down. He says, "You've done very well there, son. It means that you're sincere. It means that you took your time at it, and you're honest." And I says, "Do you blame me, Father? You really scared me yesterday. You really scared me yesterday, so I made sure I was going to do this properly, Tom." My best friends and stuff, they've killed themselves. I had a deep wound for that. I've seen a lot of death. My mum, I came to Medjugorje last year in April. Yes, it was April. And I always write on it was Mother's Day just before I left, and my mummy was smiling, and she was glad that I was coming here. I always write on a birthday card or Mother's Day card, anything. From Gary, love you, Mum. That's it. And every year, that would be it. But something told me to write, "I love you, Mum, so much." And after that, she once she read it, she came over to me and she was crying, and she says, "Guy, son, you've never said that to me before." And it breaks my heart. I wish that I had a shoulder more of, but I was always scared because my mommy was always drunk, mostly, and I didn't like seeing her drunk, so I stayed out of her house. I didn't visit much time, but I was in Medjugorje. I came to Medjugorje. She gave me an early birthday card too, because my birthday was in May, but I was leaving in April, and I planned to come here to live at that stage. And she wrote the exact same thing on my birthday card, which I've got, and I'll treasure it forever. And then after a week or so, I was here. I think after a week or so, I got a phone call late at night. I think it was like 12 o'clock at night, Tom. So sorry, guy. I think it was my sister. So sorry, guy, but my mummy's in a coma. And I was like, what? what? Why? So I dropped on my knees. Praying to God. I said, God, please don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. And then I phoned my priest, Father Paddy. He's my best friend. He's also my spiritual director. If I need advice, I go to Father Paddy. He's a living saint to me. And I phoned him, and he rushed straight up to the hospital, out of bed, clothes on, in his car, and he told me he sped up that road. And he phoned me, he says, right guy, what? He's in the hospital. He says, right guy, what room? So I told him, and he found a room by actually seeing my wee niece and nephew outside it. And he went in there, and he absolved her for all her sins. And thanks to God, my mum was still, she was aware, but she wasn't, her eyes were closed. She couldn't open her eyes or nothing at that stage. But she was aware. And Father Paddy told me, son, see, after I prayed over her and absolved her, she blessed herself twice. And he assured me, I can guarantee you now, Gary, your mum is gone straight to heaven. But the thing is, Tom, and that gives me comfort, that gives me great comfort, because she can do more for me now in heaven than what she could ever do for me on earth. You know? And I love my mum so deeply. I just wish I had told them more, Tom. But it was just my childhood. Stuff. I phoned my dad afterwards, and my dad says, Guy, stay for another 2 days in Medjugorje at least to pray for your mummy. So I did, and that was tough. I wanted to get jumped on the plane straight away, and that was tough. But and then the 2 days later came, and then my daddy says, Guy, son, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but they turned off the machine. It was the worst news. And I says, Daddy, don't dare let them doctors turn off that machine, or else I'll go mad. I'll go mad myself at them. Please don't do it. Don't do it. I was just, don't do it. All I wanted was to feel my mummy warm. I didn't want to feel my mummy cold. So I prayed to God, please do not let them. I just ignored my daddy when my daddy says, or what the doctor says. I trust in God more, and I trust in Him, not what people say. And I kept off with God, but please, just keep her on the machine, just keep her warm for me. I'm coming home right now. And I got the plane at 3. I arrived at 3 a.m. in Dublin, and my partner drove me straight to the hospital so fast, 100 mile drive, but we got there in no time. I told her to put the boot down 90 miles an hour. Once I got to the hospital, I prayed over my mum a rosary, my Divine Mercy, and then I started to sing to her. I started playing my holy songs. And do you know why the hospital was very cagey because COVID at that time and stuff? But the wee nurse was very nice to me. She let me stay there. I was there for more than 3 hours, praying over my mum. And I have that much faith. I went up to my mum's ear, and I says, in the name of Jesus Christ, open your eyes, mummy. And I repeated that for about 5 minutes. And I seen the nurse starting to get worried, and she went out to try to get a relative, because a relative to come into me, and the relative, she did come into me, and I just says, please, I'm okay. Can you just give me a wee bit of time alone with my mummy? And then it says, I realised then that Jesus needed her, that Jesus wanted her. it's not my will, it's his will, Tom. So I says to my mum, Mummy, go to Jesus now. And I'm so thankful that you stayed here until I got home. And I says, go to Jesus. And see, when I said that, Tom, there was a big tear come out of her eye. And it was so powerful. I wish I had a wee bit of cloth with me so I could hold on to it. But I wiped the tear away with my eye. And I was so emotional. But the thing was, Tom, 3 months before that, I brought my mummy to a priest. I told my whole family and my Crusader friends, close people to me, I said, my mum's going to die. I knew my mum was going to die. Something was telling me that. Something was telling me my mum was going to die. Guy, you get her to a priest. I just knew. Don't ask me how. My faith, maybe, I don't know. I knew my mum was going to die. None of the family were saying this, but I was saying it. And I got her to Father Paddy, and she was so nervous. It was so funny. She was saying to me in the back of the car, driving down, Gary, son, I have no sins in me. And I had to turn the gut, and I just busted out laughing. I just busted out laughing. Like, come on, Mummy, you haven't been in the confession since a child, probably. I wasn't sure. She hadn't been in the confession a long time. And God loved Father Paddy, brought her in, held her hand, and he was praying over and everything else. And she came out really happy. I was so thankful, so thankful that Jesus gave me that understanding of my mummy was going to die, and that's so I could get her. I got her to a priest, Father Paddy. He also was the same priest who ran to the hospital. It was a real tough time. I was the only one in my family with faith, apart from my sister who was raped that time. So I said to myself, we were told the machine was going to get turned off a few hours later in the morning, and the whole family was going to get together. The whole family got together, and I was just acting like I'm a messer in life. I see all kids, I love children. I absolutely love children. I just mess about with them all the time. I've got ADHD, so I can go right down to their level, Tom. You know, I can go right down to their level. I don't know what to say there.
You were saying like you were joyful. You said your mom is going to heaven, no? She's in heaven.
Yes. I was in the wee room, literally 2 minutes before they were going to turn off the machine. I had a T-shirt on. I got Medjugorje, and it says, "Jesus did it," and I wore that on purpose that morning. And my family were like, well, a couple of them were like, "Hey, why are you wearing that T-shirt for?" And I said, "Oh, never mind." And I was, and they were all broken. They were all crying, and I was going, "Why are you all crying for? My mummy's way to heaven. Let's all be happy, chirpy." Every single one of them looked at me like they wanted to
punch your face.
Oh, it was so funny. So I said to myself, I'm going to stay. I'm going to stay for a wee while with my family and try to show Christ through me and try to be strong all through the week, and all through that period. I was just messing about, laughing, joking, trying to explain in my best way that my mum's the way to heaven. Please be joyful. Now, I left my feelings aside, and I didn't realise it would hit me later on like that. I had to do that for my family. I had to, because they had no faith. But it did. It really hit me hard later on, and it still does. I was even attacked in Medjugorje when my mum died, by a couple of gossip people. And that really broke me. They told lies about me, and that really hurt me because they knew my mom died. But you get that everywhere, gossip people. Now I get so angry. I was so full of not hate but anger at these people for doing this to me, and I used the wrong words to them, Tom. You know, it was out of anger. So I had to go to confessional for that, of course, and I had to say to Father Michael, I'm going to have to go home. Now this was in May because I came back 2 weeks. I came back a few weeks later after my mum passed, and this was in May.
That's where we met, actually, no?
Yeah, Tom.
That's
Was.
unbelievable.
And I came back. I just couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle a couple of them gossips, and I really missed my mum. I really did. I just said, I need to go home. This doesn't feel right. So I always knew I was going to come back here, but I needed time, Tom. I really did. I actually cancelled 2 flights. One in the end of August, I think it was, and then one in September. Yeah, I did. I didn't care about the money. I just cancelled the flights, Tom. I couldn't come over. I needed to be around my family. I don't go to my mummy's grave too much because I know where my mummy is. I know where my mummy is, but God help my family, man. Especially one of my sisters. She goes up every day, you know, and to me it's like you're only torturing yourself. You're only torturing. Maria, you're only torturing yourself. I prefer just to, you know, I know where my mummy is. It was really good things come out of it, Tom. Though really good things come out of it. My dad, I begged my dad and mum to come to Medjugorje for the last few years now. No. Right? So when my mum died, my dad pointed. I couldn't believe my ears. My dad pointed. He's never said God before his life. Not that I have ever heard. Or Our Lady. Or he's never went to mass or prayed or anything like that. He pointed to Our Lady's picture that I bought with Mummy from Medjugorje, and he says, "Guy, I'm praying to Our Lady every single night." And as he said those words, it really touched my soul, and I went, "Oh, this is a miracle in itself." And then he says to me, "Son, could you bring me to Medjugorje?" I didn't have to ask. And he got. Of course he did that. I booked the flight straight away. And I made sure I spoiled him a wee bit. When I spent too much money on him. He doesn't know that, but I won't let him know that. I seen him, a priest giving rosary beads here, and I says to him, I seen him with rosary beads in his hand, and I says, "Daddy, do you want me to teach you how to pray the rosary?" And he says, "No, son, I know how to pray the rosary." And I was like, "This is amazing." My daddy hasn't been to confession since a wee child. Hasn't been to mass since he was a child. Hasn't done anything. Adoration, none of that. And I told him before he left, "Daddy, just come out for the holiday. You don't even have to go to mass. Just you treat it like a holiday." But I knew Tom. Once he's out here, something's going to click. I don't need to push it. Our Lady will do the work. And it happened almost instantly. He was in mass, he was in confession, adoration. We got invited to a private operation because I have a lot of good friends here. We got invited to private operation and says, Guy, quick, tell your dad now. You may get up now. So I got my dad, I got him up there. and he was on his knees. He was on his knees. My dad suffers painful knees, and he was on his knees at the operation. He was on his knees in the mass, and it touched my heart. And now he says to me, he wants to come back here. So I says, Daddy, when do you want to come back? And he says, either May or April. So I says to him, Daddy, my mummy's gone now. What's the point of staying in Belfast for the whole summer, just sitting on your own? Why don't you just stay with me in Medjugorje for the summer? And he gave me a big smile and he says, "Guys, son, I'm just going to do that. Thanks so much." And then me and my ex-partner, who I have a son with when I was a teenager, she got back together with me, and I don't deserve her. I would have been dead. She saved me a lot from death. She saved me from everything. She's so selfless. She's a social worker, and at night time she looks after old people. So she's a real caring person, and she's in faith. Me and her would go to mass together. I would go to Latin mass. She wouldn't be too fond of the Latin mass. But I have brought her in a few times. You're going to Latin mass for me today. So that's another thing I think my mummy done for me, because my mummy knew I really loved her deep down. We were broke up for 10 years, and my mummy knew that I always loved her. I always had a deep love for her, and she took me back. And now we're getting married. We're going to get married. All we need is to pick the date. She's agreed finally to marry me, because I can't live in a sinful lifestyle. I have to be a married man. And I pray to God, only in His will, of course, not mine, for a wee baby. I pray to God for a baby, a baby girl. I would love a wee baby girl. He's did so much for me, Tom. He's did so much for me. I do not deserve God's love for what I done. I was so bad, Tom. Everybody in my back home knew me and knew what I was like. And also, people were really bad to me. But that's all gone now. I forgive people. I forgive the British Army. I got the chance to talk to a British soldier. Just, I don't know, 4 years ago. And then we were talking for 2 years on Instagram. And I says, I forgive you. I forgive you. I forgive you completely. And he says to me, I forgive you too, because he has murdered so many of my good friends. And we had to actually be laughing about that. We had a wee laugh about that, but just in a jokey way. And it just so happened that he was a boxer, and he worked on cars. I was a boxer, and I was working on cars, so we really had a good wee connection. And I was so thankful for 2 years talking to him, and keep constantly being nice to him, because he's a lovely man, a really lovely man. I don't blame those soldiers one bit. I don't blame those soldiers. They were only young and they were silly. The government, the British government, it was them who bred the hate into these wee soldiers to hate Catholics and to kill us and to jail us. So I don't blame them. I forgive the British government, of course, too. There's no hate in my heart. If I sensed one bit of hate in my heart, I would probably panic now. I would panic. I'd definitely panic, and I would run to confession. But no, I can't hate no one. I just can't hate no one, Tom. I used to hate a lot of people, but since I got my faith, and it's been a journey, Tom. It doesn't happen overnight, and it's still a journey. I have a cross to carry for the rest of my life. We all do, Tom. Some get heavy crosses, some get light crosses, and I've accepted my heavy cross, and I'm proud of that. I'm actually proud of not complaining so much as you used to. Like, why is this happening to me for? Why am I depressed? Why do I want to die for? Why was I an alcoholic? Why was I always drinking alcoholically? All that stuff. I'm just so happy. I'm so happy. I met Christina, my son's mum, who I'm getting married to, is my world. She's my whole life, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to get her back. She's done everything for me, and now it's my turn to repay that. And I will repay that. I will repay that. She's amazing person. She's coming here.
She's coming here. Wow.
She's coming here with my dad. She's coming here with my dad in the airplane, and so that'll be really good to have two of them together, and to stay in my apartment.
Beautiful. No?
It's yeah.
Everything's coming together now, no? Isn't it, after all this year?
Everything. My son doesn't go to mass. I always say to him about it, but I can't push him. He's at that age now. He's turning 20, and I can't push him too hard, Tom. But I know from watching me going to mass and practicing my faith and coming here, I know that I'm going to pass it on to my son. And he's coming here too this summer to meet me or to visit me. So there was a lot of good that came out of my mum's death. My daddy turned to God because my mummy died. If my mummy hadn't died, again, my daddy wouldn't have turned to God. If my sister wasn't raped, and this may be bad to say, people might think this is bad to say this, but if she hadn't have been raped, she would never have turned to God. And if I hadn't went through all my hard times and beatings and jail, suicide, the drink, all that stuff, if I hadn't went through all that pain, I wouldn't have turned to God. Fact. That's a fact, Tom. And I tell God, I am so grateful for the hard times. I am so grateful. I used to hate them. I would never say that before my faith started. But I am so grateful that I'm through those hard times, because that made me turn to God. And see, over 100 suicide attempts, and I'm still walking.
You are a living miracle, man.
I'm here for a purpose. So now I try to repay God by bringing others to Him. And my boxers in Ireland are coming over to stay in my apartment as well. None of them have faith. But Tom, I'll tell you this one, right? One of them, Ben, he's actually my cousin, Ben Johnson. He was fighting in the Danish hotel, a big massive show, about 1,000 people there. And he says to me, "Guy, I need to tell you something." I says, "Ben, I have no time for this. Get warming up now. We're fighting in two fights time." And he says, "No, Guy, I really need to tell you something." And I said, "Okay, kid, tell me, but be quick, because we had to warm up for this fight." And he says to me, and it breaks my, oh, that's so good. He says to me, Guy, see, since you've come into the new boxing gym, I've never believed in God before. But see, since you've come into the new gym, I believe in God. And I couldn't show him my expression because I needed to be tough to be in his corner in the ring. And I didn't want him to see me, so I had to turn my head round to the side, Tom. And I was crying. I was crying, like, thank you Jesus, thank you Jesus, thank you Jesus. And then I wiped the tears. I couldn't show that because he was getting ready for battle. And imagine if he had seen me crying. I would have panicked him. Guy, what's wrong? What's wrong?
You're not going to be my coach there. You wimp. Yeah.
Tom, I'm actually going to take a couple of wee exhibition fights. Just a fun fights. I'm done with serious fights. I've had over 300.
Wow.
And I'm done now. I'm 40. My son's a boxer. And he's a fireman now. But I'm going to have a couple of wee exhibitions, and it was you gave me the idea, and it's a brilliant idea because I cry every single day. I can't stop crying.
It's beautiful. I learned that in Medjugorje to cry.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to cry. It's a nice feeling. So my ring walk on these wee exhibition fights, I'll probably have 2 or 3. It's going to be, you ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. I promise you. I promise. That's my song. And I'm going to dance to the ring when that's played. But I just hope I don't cry, Tom. For God's sake, because I cry everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere I go, people are crying. And another thing what my mother has done and Our Lady has done for me, I have women here, at least, I've lost count now, maybe 10 older women who treat me like a son, who hug me. I never got hugged before as a child, who tell me they love me every single day, all day long. Anytime they see me, they tell me this. They hug me every single day, and I feel so warm. I feel my mummy. In Mass last night, I was with Kelly, my second mum, and
Spiritual mum.
Kelly would call me son too. And
it's beautiful. She didn't have a son. She told you also, no? Maybe you know.
That's right. Yeah, she didn't have a son.
So the circle's close, no? Somehow.
She has 2 son-in-laws, and she says, "Guy, I never had a son, but you're my son now." And it made me cry. And so in Mass last night, it was a beautiful Mass last night, really beautiful Mass.
I thought so too, no?
Yeah, oh, powerful. Kelly had a wee seat, and she says, "Guy, son, are you okay just sitting on the ground?" Because we were up at the front, Tom. And I says, "No, of course not, Kelly. I would kneel for this whole Mass. I've heard about none of that." But I remember just leaning on her shoulder, and I just felt mum. I just felt my mum. And she touches my head, and I can feel my mum. It's the same with Deirdre. Lydia.
What a special person, though.
Yeah, I've got Lydia. I love Lydia so much. They all treat me like a real mother, and I've never had that talk. So I've been blessed.
You look, I'm crying. Stop it now. I'm the tough guy, the journalist. So you see at the end of the video 2 guys crying here, no? And what would you tell young people? I mean, after all your experience, all what happened to you, know? First of all, it's fun to cry, no? It's good. That's good, no? For us men,
it's good
to show
cry.
emotions.
That's the first thing I would tell a young child. Don't hide your tears. Let them out. when I tell my testimony back home, the last testimony I told, there was a couple of young people there, and I got a lot out of it from me. And all these people were shocked at hearing my story, because they all, "Guy, you're such a nice person. How could you do that stuff and then change?" And that's what that's my chance. That's my opportunity to go, Jesus. No doctor, no psychiatrist, nobody, no police officer, nobody could ever help me. Nobody. I listened to no one. But Jesus saved me. Jesus saved me. And all these young people are committing suicide. Please stop it. I always had the voice in my head, your family's going to be better off without you because you're causing them too much pain. So I accepted that, and I thought that was okay. I actually thought I was doing the right thing, the moral thing. Take my life away so they can live in peace. But see, if I hadn't done that, Tom, I would have destroyed them. And thank God that God saved me from every single suicide attempt. And there's so much suicide now, Tom, and there's a way out of this. There's a way out of this. I would tell these kids there's a way out of this, and it's not drugs, or it's not alcohol. It's Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Trust me. When you open up your heart to Jesus, when you pray from the heart to Jesus and Our Lady, and for all the angels and archangels to guide you and to protect you, you will be answered. You will be protected. How could I change? It was impossible. It was impossible for me to change. I was such a bad person. But Jesus did it. Jesus did it. And how could I still be alive after all those suicide attempts? Jesus done that. He had different plans for me. But a lot of these young ones and adults think that there's no way out, and the pain's just too much for them, which it was for me too, Tom. But they can get past it if they really just look to God. Just look to God and just keep focused on God. Day by day by day, it will get better. You will see change day by day. Don't expect. Some people get it overnight, miracle overnight, but it's a journey, day by day by day, and take it easy. Don't be rushing into anything. Like, don't be rushing into mass and going. Oh, I'm holy now. No, do it nice and easy. Do it nice and easy. That's what I done, and always. My best advice is have a good priest. Have a good priest near you who will always advise you, who will always be there to talk to you. Because I never got refused, not one time, and I was always drunk, calling the priest's house 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. The door was always opened, and they came down in their robes. Guy, not you again. Come on in.
And that's the Catholic priest, the real Catholic priest, not what the media tells, no?
No, beautiful
Beautiful
priests.
persons,
Beautiful priests.
Man.
And nuns, nuns who abused my mum. Well, people would say to me, people would mock me sometimes, but they're not mocking me. They're only harming themselves.
Amen.
They would say things like, dirty paedophile priests, all this here, and I says, no. See if you read your Bible, see if you listened to Jesus and what his words were. He told us that there's going to be false preachers. He told us that the church will be infiltrated with evil. and it happened. It happened. But we have to stand. We have to stand strong. We have to stand strong. Priests are beautiful people, and nuns. I could quite easily say that about nuns.
The same here. If you see them here, no, in Medjugorje.
Nuns more or less killed my mother, more or less because of what they've done to her. But I love nuns. Every time I see a nun, I hug her. And one wee nun gave me this 2 years ago here.
Wow, it's unbelievable. What is this? Oh, Our Lady, no?
Blessed by Our Lady at an apparition.
Wow, beautiful. And you got Padre Pio as well.
It's a wee rose petal.
A rose petal. Wow.
And that's my boxing friend gave me that that I work with.
Padre Pio, unbelievable. Now, what can I say? I only can say thank you so much for that beautiful interview, man. This is.
No, Tom, thank you. Thank God I didn't cry too much there. 'Cause I'm always,
I cried. You saw me. I'm behind the camera. You're the courageous one. I was crying here, you know. Thank you so much.
Tom, thank you. God bless.